Hello, everybody. This is Carter Harkins and Taylor Hill for Spark Live. Good to have you with us. And if you're watching this after the fact, after it was live on the recording version, thank you for doing that as well. Taylor is on the road today. Hey, man.
Hey, how are you?
Good. 16-hour drive, I think you said today?
Yeah, something like that. I think we've got it down to 14.
Wow.
Yeah, I flew. The first 7 hours I drove, and Jonathan looked down and went, "Oh, we only have like 6 more hours." I said, "Well, you're going to drive for a while because I got meetings." So, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, be safe. You're not driving while you're doing this, right?
No, I am not. No, I'm Speedy Gonzalez when I have to be, but I'm not stupid.
Okay, good.
Well, at least I hope I'm not stupid.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody who's joining us. If you're joining us now, feel free to give us a like, a thumbs up, a heart, some sort of form of approval so that we know that you're out there and we can recognize you for being here. So thank you. Okay. We are talking about something today that is a question we get a lot. It's a question that I think a lot of people are, you know, they ask us and then they realize who they asked when they asked it. It's my dad used to say, um, never ask a barber if you need a haircut. And so when you ask an SEO company, how much should SEO cost? You're going to get an answer. But this is actually pretty well studied just in terms of like research in the industry and knowing what we know about other agencies and freelancers and what they charge for the kind of stuff that we do. So I think it'll be a good discussion. The discussion today is going to be how much or what does good SEO really cost. So with that, Taylor, let me jump in or ask this question just to establish really quickly for anybody watching who doesn't already know or who thinks they know, what is SEO? I mean, maybe answer by kind of talking about what it's not too.
So SEO is, it stands for search engine optimization, and we've had several shows about it. But it really is the way that I look at it. It's how people go out and search for you, and then the information on your website. Google looks at the search query that they put in and looks at the content on your website and brings those two things together to actually serve up the best information possible for the searcher. Now that's what I always tell. That's the easiest way to understand.
Yeah, it's a good explanation.
Yeah, the thing that it doesn't go into is another part of SEO, which has really to do with how Google looks to solidify who you are. That's another piece, which means that Google doesn't always believe you as the owner and the website that you are who you say who you are. So it's actually going out, the spiders and whatnot are going out to verify who you are, where you are, and all your information. So the reason that I tell you that is because if you don't have links coming into the back end, if you don't have some verification things that Google says, hey, you're verified. We talk about trust. We've talked about EAT. Trust is one of those, trustworthiness. Things like having your BBB, having a BNI, having some of the certifications, whether it's CSIA and CSG, whatever, CCP, all those different certifications that you may have, all that lends itself into Google going out and proving who you are. Now, that's the second piece. Then there's a third piece of it, which is the technical piece, which nobody understands, including me half the time. I've got to either, talk to Carter, talk to Garish, somebody, Fred, and say, hey, I'm reading about this thing. Do we have this thing? I mean, that'll tell you how technical I am because I don't want to get in the code. So, but then you go into the technical aspects and what that means. And we've had a lot of this since the pandemic because so many businesses went out of business. let's just say XYZ business linked to your business and it was a trust factor, okay, 5 years ago. Well, now on all the technical audits that are being done, that business no longer exists. So there's a dead link there. So we have to go clean all that up. So Google not only wants, everything else, but they want you to be technically as perfect as you absolutely can be. So that in essence is what SEO is and the three components, if you will, of SEO that kind of makes a difference. I got a neighbor over here that's being broken into or something. I don't know. Hope y'all don't have to hear the horn, but can't do anything about it. Sorry.
No worries. You stopped for gas, I hope.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about those three areas of SEO, those kind of divisions of SEO a little bit when we start talking about cost here in a minute. But let's talk a little bit about some of the SEO strategies that are out there. So meaning, concentration on keywords or search terms, um, versus like link building, those kinds of strategies. So I mean, there's different. SEO involves quite a bit. Some of it is what we call on-page SEO, and then there's SEO that's really off-page strategies that where it's not it's activities undertaken for SEO value, but not on your own website property. It's trying to get links from other places back to your site. And both of those things kind of work together to create a strong effect. And so doing one without the other is not necessarily going to get you as far. Some SEO companies only do one; they don't do the other, and that's an important distinction to make, because without doing both, you're really not. There's some holes in your strategy.
So one of the things that I would say is, the very, very first thing I remember in the very beginning when I started doing SEO for myself and for other companies, I was in the mortgage business at the time. When you would start doing keyword research and those kind of things, sometimes there, in the research, you would end up having anywhere between 2,500 and 10,000 keywords that you could find on a given subject matter. So part of the problem is that some of those keywords are positive keywords and then there's negative keywords. And if you ever do AdWords, you understand what negative keywords are. So let me just explain that a little bit too, because a lot of people don't understand this. So if you went in and you said, okay, I'm going to be looking for SEO, but one of the big terms for SEO is free SEO. All right. So you may, as a company, be looking for free SEO, and you may find some free SEO, and you're going to get about, whatever it is that you find in there. You're either going to be doing it yourself, or you're not going to get a whole lot. I mean, that's just the value of it. So the point is, there's positive keywords, there's negative keywords that you have to consider, and it's all about the research that has to be done prior to. This is one reason why a lot of SEO companies like to stay in one, maybe two verticals. Does that make sense? Because they get to
Absolutely
where
does.
they really understand the vertical. And when you really understand the vertical, you're not having to spend hours and hours and hours out there doing research on the original keywords or initial keywords. However, with that said, I'll just give you a really good example of something that I just went through. I mean, we're up here doing some video shooting in Pennsylvania. And I went on a parging job thinking it was parging a smoke chamber. I've never heard of anybody talk about parging the chimney before. Well, it was an outside job, parging a chimney and resurfacing. I've heard it called resurfacing, but up here in this region, they people search for it. So the point is, uh, different areas actually talk about it in different ways, and so you when you're doing things, you have to do a little research sometimes and figure out how is somebody in this area actually searching for or looking for this thing.
Yeah,
So hopefully that makes sense.
it does, and it is a strategic undertaking when you when you focus on a particular industry like an agency can do, then the research and everything that has to be done, it still has to be done. But instead of just having one client that you're doing all the research for, you have a lot of clients that you can test strategies and things and find out much quicker what really does work. So it's a definite benefit there. All right, let's talk about speaking of benefits. Let's talk about some of the benefits of good SEO. Um, and I'm thinking things like brand awareness. You know, when we've got clients that literally own the first page of the Google search results, and they're there, you know, multiple times in multiple links and search results. And what does that do? I mean, it increases brand awareness and it helps people understand this is the company. I mean, they're everywhere, and that's a very good thing. Let's talk a little bit about some of these other strategies, Taylor. If you can still hear me, you kind of froze, but um, competitive advantages and visibility, long-term benefits. Talk a little bit about long-term benefits of SEO.
So that's one of the things that people don't realize is where you are business that you write papers and things that you have to wait. Okay. So one of the things that I'll tell you, SEO is a long-term play, and by what I mean by that is it takes a while for Google to look at your website and confirm all those things that I just said before. You've got to get the links, you've got to do the research, you've got to make sure the right content, you've got to read, all that's got to be done in order for SEO to really take place, and that takes time. And the big question is, how much time does it take? And I'll tell you, it could take 6 months. Sometimes it's 3 months, but it could also take 18 months. It depends on competition. It depends on where you are in the world. It depends, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff there that when we do the research about what you're doing locally, and I hope y'all know that I'm like on a roller coaster right now. So I'm having a lot of fun with this thing. It's just there are some things that are on. Um, so that really makes a huge difference. That on the flip side, though, I want to talk about that too. On the flip side, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, all right, and we've had people call us, they're out in the middle of nowhere. I do all the research, and I'm like, okay, exactly why are you calling me? Do you want, what is it? Because you have a decent website, you're number one everywhere you are, and I see you don't have any competition. You are the only chimney sweep I see. And they're like, yeah, that's true, but I just wanted to check and make sure I'm doing okay. Well, if there's nobody else but you, you're doing all right because there's nobody else but you. So I wouldn't tell anybody to invest in SEO if they're coming up like that everywhere. That's not a good spend for your money. At the same time, and you and I know the plumber that did this, we went out and talked to a plumber. He was one of 800
On
in
one
the
side of
area.
town.
Yeah, on his side of town. And he did not have the assets. He did not have a budget. He did not have anything to compete in the way that he wanted to compete. But he was determined to compete, and I'm pretty sure he's probably gone out of business because he did not plan at all, and his business model was kind of kooky too. So, without going into all that, but it was kind of a crazy deal. So in that instance, if you want to compete there, you have to be prepared to compete. So there are great benefits about SEO. You're seeing, like you said, the branded piece. It is long term and it's also long lasting. If you stay with it, I feel, and I'm not the only one that feels this way, once you get established with really good SEO, it is really tough for somebody to come and knock you off. Number one. Number two, as long as you're doing the ongoing maintenance and keeping everything going like you should, you become very established in Google. When Google sees that you're established, they see you're getting great reviews, you're serving your people, all those things, it solidifies you in Google, and they are going to keep putting you forth. So, to me, that's the greatest thing about SEO. On the flip side, if you need business like right now today and you don't have money to invest in SEO, then you're going to have to do something else. You're either going to have to do guerrilla marketing where you're out putting things on, you're putting things together on doors, yard signs, maybe do some social, maybe do, some Google ads, those kind of things to bring in business like right now. But if you want to be around for a long term and know that this is a long play, then I highly recommend SEO for your business, any business.
Yeah. It's kind of like, the old, when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. The
Right.
second best time is today, and the sooner you do it, the sooner you'll be able to benefit from those long-term investments. So that's good. All right, well, let's get down to cost then and talk a little bit about each kind of SEO and the cost associated with it. So these are numbers that we see regularly in the industry, okay, and they're representative of what we see in agencies that are working in some of the same verticals that we work in. So technical SEO, okay, that's the under the hood code stuff that is really important and can be a real competitive advantage for websites because so few people really do it or do it well. So schema markup and all of those kinds of things. So what, Taylor, do you know offhand what someone can expect to pay for technical SEO?
Yeah, if you have a really small website, you're looking at about a one time of 2,500. And if you have a really large website, and by that you're probably talking about 25 plus pages, you can get up in the 15,000. Now that may sound like a lot, but let me tell you, if you're in e-commerce and you have multiple pages, it can be a $50,000 cost just to do a technical SEO. Now here's the thing: a technical SEO audit doesn't fix it for you. This is the thing. I'm not talking about money to go in and fix it. I'm talking about they give you a list of everything that needs to be fixed, and then you have to go back to your website people and give them the list and tell them to fix it.
Yeah,
So that's what a technical SEO audit is. They don't fix it for you.
Yep. There's some tools out there that can point out some of the things, technical SEO things that a page needs or doesn't have, but none of them will go fix it for you. It's always something that you've got to do yourself because it's so content dependent. And the thing is that you can technically SEO a website and deploy a bad strategy and not see any of the results that you really want to see because you did it wrong, or you did it right, but you didn't do it very strategically. And it's that strategy part that is so crucial to get right. And so few agencies really pay attention to what the strategy should be before they go in and just start fixing, quote, fixing things or making recommendations. So
Yeah, and sometimes the fixes that these guys will tell you to do actually cause other issues. So you've got things in your website. If you're using plugins for scheduling, if you're, using a third party, and I'm talking about people that use Service Titan and House Call Pro and some of these are great things. Nothing against any of that. But if an SEO company comes down and says, "Hey, fix this," and it interferes with that, then all of a sudden you fix what they've told you, but you've now interfered and other things break and don't work. So you have to be really careful with that. So that's number one. And here's the other thing: they recommend for you to do a technical audit once a year, at the very least. So if you're spending that kind of money once a year, and they say, it's kind of like, getting your chimney looked at once a year, getting it inspected. Well, they say you need to have a technical audit once a year. And if you fix the big thing, it's probably not going to be as expensive. It's kind of the same thing. If you go in and fix a chimney system and you do all that, then the next thing you do the deal. But you're probably spending on the $2,500 a year side just to go up and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because websites are very dynamic. I mean, a good website, an effective website that's really doing what it needs to do for the company is one that changes pretty frequently. Changes on the content on different pages, new pages being added, old pages being removed, combining pages in order to make more sense for users who are coming to the website to look. Cleaning up links and all of that kind of stuff. It's a very dynamic thing, and that's the reason. If it was just set it and forget it, then you wouldn't really need those audits. But it never stays the same. Your website is constantly changing. Even when you don't think you've changed anything, sometimes stuff changes because you update a plugin on your WordPress website, or you change hosting providers or something like that, and suddenly a lot of what your SEO was depending on is yanked out from underneath it, and it's like a house of cards that falls. And so it really is important to constantly have eyes on it. All right.
Yeah,
Next.
that's a perfect explanation of that.
Oh, wow. Good.
So strategies. So the first, yeah. So sorry about that. So the keyword research. So let me just tell you, the very first job that I got, I charged them $10,000 to do SEO strategy, market, and keyword research. 10,000. And guess what I did? I gave them a list of the keywords that I would use. I gave them a list of the negative keywords not to use. And then I sat down and I said, here are the top 3 things that I would do, and mapped out a strategy for them and said, go. That's what I did. They paid me $10,000 for that. That was in 2004. So guess how much is that? Small site, probably $7,500. You go up to a really large site, an e-commerce site. Oh my gosh, e-commerce, big e-commerce. I would be $35,000. Absolutely, I know what it takes. That's where I'd be.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're freezing up a little bit on me, but I just want to make sure that you can hear me, that I'm giving good information.
So far, lately, we've been able to hear you, so I'll let you know if not.
Okay.
So, that pretty much covers strategy and research. That sort of consulting that's really useful to know, especially if you're just starting on the SEO journey. It almost always has to include this kind of work, unless you're working with an agency that has been specializing in your industry for a long, long time, has years of experience and knowledge about keyword research and strategy for your kind of business. And then it's a much shorter conversation and usually a lot less expensive with regard to, your ability to get the benefit of all of that research without having to pay a lot for that research, if that makes sense. All right.
No, and I think that's really true. And one of the things that I want to just to stop you for just a second, there are people out there that will do audits and they'll do them a whole lot cheaper. But I'm going to tell you, be careful who you have do your audits, because not everybody knows what they're doing. And this is a big issue in SEO circles. And it's not just me. These are some of the big guns that I listen to and in some of my masterminds that I'm in. Just be very picky about who does your audits and who does your SEO.
Yep, I agree. Hannah's got a good question. Hi, Hannah. Glad you're with us today. Your question is, how do you find the leader in your industry when we're talking about, and I want to make sure I understand, do you mean the leader in terms of like the competitor in your market, or do you mean the leader in terms of like an agency who is leading the way in SEO for your industry? If you'll weigh in with that, I'll make sure that we give you the answer that you're looking for. So while we wait on Hannah, let me just kind of move on to this next one. Um, Talking about content marketing, we haven't talked a lot about content as the strategy, but essentially all SEO is relates to the content that's online. It's the stuff that people consume in order to understand, uh, you know, whether or not they're in the right place. And so that content marketing is um, a huge thing. Now, this tends to be done more on a piecemeal basis. If I mean, not always, but often like a per piece or per content page or a blog post or an article or things like that. So, Taylor, talk a little bit about the costs that we see in that area.
So content is, everybody looks at it and thinks, oh, that's the pages that are written on the website. Well, that's part of it, but it's also the videos that go on the website, the pictures that are on the website. If you have infographics, if you have to go out and get any kind of stock photos and get the licensing and all that kind of stuff taken care of. And it's the ADA compliance piece. That's content. That's how somebody that has disabilities and whatever can consume that content on your website. So is a part of SEO content marketing. And so you're talking about writers are normally a per page situation or per word. I've seen it anywhere from $1 to $5 a word, depending on the subject. You get into things like medical and legal, you're actually paying more. The hardest part that I find in home services businesses is finding writers that are qualified to write the content. That has been one of the biggest struggles, especially in the chimney industry, because most people have no idea that chimney sweeps are still a thing, and so they go through a great deal of education to get up to snuff, so they even know what the heck to write. So that's a really big issue. Normally I would say a page. I mean, you could probably do on a small page, $150 a page if they do a page by page. Sometimes it's $500 a page if it's a big long page and there's a lot of research involved. Um, but the average website that's written today is about $3,500 to $5,000 to write just just writing the content. I've seen people that have started sending videos that they're doing. They get pictures off your social media platforms, and they send you a video. And in order to use it, it's $2,000. So it's just piecemealing. Once you start once you start adding those things up, all of a sudden it starts costing you quite a bit of money. So, it's hard for me to tell you exactly what it is, but if you said, $300 a page that you're writing on your website, you hire a photographer for a couple of days, that's probably another $3,000. You get somebody to do video and do that for you. You're probably, there are people in the industries that we serve, it's 40,000, 45,000 a year. Can do continually video and pictures and whatever for your website, and that's just the video and photography, for your website and social. So it can be costly.
So I got some clarification from Hannah on the question, and she was really talking about how do you find an agency that does a lot of the kind of businesses that are like mine? And that's a great question. And every industry is a little bit different. Um, Asking the question is a great place to start. Asking other people who do the kind of work that you do, who they've heard of, or who do they trust, or who do they use, or who they've heard other people in the industry are using. That's a good way to kind of start moving down that path to try to find somebody. Um, Oftentimes, though, a company that is committed to Hannah jumps in. She goes, "Not trying to leave y'all, lol." Hannah, we're never afraid of that. We always want people to be in the best place possible, and sometimes that means that they're not in the right place with us. But in your case, I think you are, because what I was going to say is, we've made a commitment to understand the industry that you're in, and we've made a commitment to be able to serve that industry well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have taken you as a client. So we feel like we have good insights into the keyword strategies and a lot of this SEO play that we've been talking about, and can bring a lot of that to you affordably. But it's still good to look around and see what other agencies might be out there doing this, and make sure that you get good advice and understand where the advantages might be. That leads me to the next point that I wanted to make: the benefit of having an agency do it versus maybe a freelancer or trying to do it yourself and bootstrapping it. It's probably self-evident. The real key here is that because we've already talked about three
Carter,
main. Go ahead.
Before we get into that, the other place I want Hannah to know is if she can get in touch, if they've got a organization with that industry, that sometimes if you get in touch with organizations and like NCSG, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to figure out exactly how to say that. But yeah, a lot of times they have people too that they can say they know. So I just want to throw that in. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So working with an agency, we've already talked about three different kinds of SEO, with technical, the strategy and research part, as well as the writing and content part. Three very different hats, and there's very few individuals who master all three of those really disparate kind of functions for SEO. So when you work with an agency, they specialize. They have people that are great at the technical. They have writers that are great at the content strategy and video, and production like that. And then they have people that are really good at keyword research and keeping up with industry trends and what's going on and what's working and where to find out, eke out those really niche advantages for an industry. So that's really the key advantage in my mind, is the knowledge and expertise that an agency can bring to the table.
The only thing that I would throw into is when you're an agency, you have other people around you. So if there's something you don't know, or something you have questions about, or something that you may not know exactly how to do, there are other people around you that chances are they're going to either know somebody who knows it, or can get with you together and you've got somebody to help you figure it out. So I think that's the other thing that's great about having an agency.
All right, so let's talk about the last topic here as we wrap up. And this is a topic that I know, Taylor, you care a lot about, because it really can be a make or break kind of a topic point when we have a new client come in. There's nothing worse than knowing what needs to be done, but not being able to apply the budget in order to make that happen. So talk a little bit about budgeting for SEO, both from the time perspective, what are those expectations look like, and from the money side.
So the reason I really wanted to have this conversation is so that people will start getting real about what they need. If they're really committed to go and committed to doing it the right way, then I think there's some reality here that people need to start looking at, and understanding that for, we do, our packages not only include the SEO portion, but it also, because we want to control the website, there's nothing as frustrating as doing SEO and putting things together, charging a company X amount of dollars, handed it over to their people, and nothing gets done. They've just spent $15,000, $20,000. And guys, I've done this before. And I said, this is crazy. It's one of the reasons that we want to control the website, so that we know that actually the work gets done. Most agencies that I know do the same thing. Okay, full service agencies like ours. But it's going to cost you, $2, $3, sometimes $4,000 a month to do this. Again, depending on competition, depending on how big you are. How big? When I say how big you are, it's not necessarily trucks, but if if you have multiple locations, if you've got, there's all kinds of things that you've got to kind of roll into this and understand that every single location you have, because we didn't even talk about local SEO optimization and local SEO, which is your map and your Google Business Profile. This is all organic stuff. So, there's a lot of other stuff out there that we also roll into this. So I just want people to know they've got to be prepared. People saying, oh my God, I'm spending $25,000-$30,000 doing this stuff. What am I doing? And I ask them, how much do you spend on insurance? Oh, I spend $50,000 a year on insurance. So you get business out of insurance? Well, no, I don't get any business out of my insurance. I said, I complain about spending that money too. I said, yeah, but you get business out of SEO. The reason I know it is because we have multiple clients that stick with us, and they don't do anything else anymore except continue on with their SEO, and that's what does it for them. Other clients that are trying to grow and grow and grow, maybe not so much. They're adding and going and building. It just depends. So, but you got to commit the time and the money to get it done. So be prepared. Be prepared. That's really the deal. Prepared and consistency.
Sorry, I'm muted. I didn't realize. It's not something that happens overnight. It's good SEO takes time to develop. And, you know, when you start building a house, you don't lay a foundation and you're done. You build and build and build until the house is the way that you want it. And this is a similar undertaking. It's a process, and it starts with certain fundamentals and foundations, and then on to more advanced things, and finishing, and really getting that strategy where you start to see big results. For some clients it takes 6 months. Other clients it takes a good deal longer than that, and can sometimes, in really competitive industries and in competitive markets where your competitors have been at this a lot longer and you're just coming on the scene, expect that this is an investment you may make for a couple of years before you start really competing and seeing yourself in the mix, competitively speaking. But the thing is that if you keep at it long enough, if you continue doing what needs to be done, if you hang in there and trust that this process leads somewhere, and that if you feel like you're getting good communication from the company that's doing it for you, and they're able to explain what it is that they're doing, then chances are good that if you stick with them long enough, they're going to show you some good results. They're going to get that competitive advantage for you. This stuff really does work. Even after all the years that we've been doing it and the changes in this kind of work that we've seen, it's still a strategy that long term is better than almost anything else in terms of dollar for dollar. It will reduce in the long term all of your other marketing spends, because it has a multiplicative effect on things like your Google AdWords spend, on things like your social media presence, on things like brand awareness in your market. All of these things are crucial for lowering the overall cost. And if you continue doing that and doing it consistently, you're going to see the advantage. So it looks like we lost Taylor, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. We're over time today. I just want to thank everybody for being a part. And let's see, we've got one person jumping in. This might be Jerry. The answer lies in the ability to track and measure the success of your marketing. Absolutely, it does. And SEO is trackable and usually very measurable. So if it's done in conjunction with an overall strategy, and that strategy is clear and those goals are well defined, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to track and measure the success of your SEO and show an ROI or a return on that investment over time. So we're going to leave it there. Just real quickly, want to mention we are available now as a podcast after the fact. So this will be released. You can find it anywhere that you consume podcasts: Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, etc. Next week, we're going to be having a great conversation with Mark Stoner about this very thing, about how SEO helped him build a multi-million-dollar company. And this, I think, is going to be a great discussion. Taylor's going to be on. I'm going to be on as well. We're going to talk to Mark about the relationship that we've had with him for just about 10 years now, doing his SEO and watching how that multiplicative effect has happened, how it's year after year increased his visibility and made him unassailable just about in the Nashville market. So I hope you'll tune in for that. Thank you so much for being a part of it today, and tune in again next week for that conversation with Mark Stoner. Thanks, everyone.